welcome back to The Truth Behind Mystic Falls. In this week's episode, we are going back and watching Season 2, Episode 1, The Return. This is very, very exciting. I'm excited because it's Season 2, we've done a full season. That is so exciting. So, let's get into it. Also, you guys, the last few weeks we've had a guest called G, who's one of my good friends, but this week she's unable to record just with scheduling, but she will be back soon for some more. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed her. I've definitely enjoyed doing it with her. Last week we did a season 1 special. So I hope that you guys liked that. That was very fun to record, and adding all of, the details of our favourite parts of season 1. So let's get into it. So, The Vampire Diaries, Season 2, Episode 1, The Return. It was aired on September 9th, 2010. Viewers 3.35 million. Written by Kevin Williams and Julia Pleck. Directed by J. Miller Tobin. And the next episode will be called Brave New World. So let's get into a summary. Katherine returns with vengeance, picking up on the same night as the last season finale. Elena arrives home to a nightmare as she discovers Uncle John and Jeremy's fate. At the hospital, Sheriff Forbes is comforted by Matt, Bonnie and Damon while she waits to hear if Caroline will survive the car accident. After a confusing conversation with Elena and Jenna about the night's evening, Damon is the first to realise that Katherine has returned. Katherine arrives, sends Stefan and Damon on a path to find out what she wants, why she's back, and how much of a threat she'll be to the people they love. Meanwhile, still reeling from his father's death, Tyler is surprised with his charming and mysterious uncle, Mason Lockwood, arrives to console the family. So, that is a full episode of lots and lots of drama. So, we might as well get into it. So, before we get into it, I'm going to tell you guys. So, not last week, but the week before, we did the final episode, which is episode 22, Founders Day. And in this episode, in the last scene, we see Damon and Elena, who we thought, kiss. We saw Katherine, actually, not Elena, but Katherine was pretending to be Elena, cut John's hand and stabbed him. So, we kind of pick up from that night. We see that happen, and then we see from there. So, let's get into the plot. So, Katherine surprises John in the kitchen, posing as Elena. Now, let me say, she did a good job posing to Elena. We haven't seen Katherine. We've seen her in, flashbacks. We haven't seen her in, the real, the actual there and then until today. Katherine is played by the amazing Nina Dobrev, who also plays Elena. So, yeah, but I think it would be, before we continue, I just want to talk about it. I feel like it would be probably kind of hard to play both because they are so different. It'll be with Elena, she's very sweet and caring, but Katherine is the opposite, So I think it would be a big adjustment, but she did an amazing job of playing both, I think. She's an amazing actor, so, yeah. Anyway, let's continue. Posing as Elena. She explains Jenna is meeting with the fire chief. Jeremy is upstairs when he drank vampire blood and tried to overdose on prescribed pills. Outside, Elena talks to Stefan on the phone, saying that she has to go and check on Jeremy. Inside, Katherine takes out a kitchen knife, cuts off John's fingers, and stabs him in the guts. Elena finds John bleeding in the kitchen and calls for help while Katherine lurks. John warns her that someone else is here, so Elena picks up the knife for protection, but Katherine moves too fast for Elena to see her and leaves. Elena finds Jeremy upstairs. Whoa. That's a lot. So, yeah. I feel like that would be very hard to kind of go through, like, for anyone because, it was a bit, watching that scene, it's a bit bloody gory. Like, if you don't like gory, bloody kind of scenes, I wouldn't recommend watching that scene, or at least closing your eyes, because it's a bit, it's not that bad. You just see, like, the fingers get cut off, so it's a little bit weird, but anyway. But, yeah. Anyway, let's continue. Stefan arrives after the police and Elena explain what's going on. Stefan looks Jeremy over and announces he's not a vampire. Woohoo! Though he warns him that if he tries to kill himself now, he really dies. Anna's blood protected him from any harm that the pills might have caused. Elena goes to the hospital to check on Caroline, and Stefan stays with Jeremy. So in this scene, you can tell that Stefan is really worried about Jeremy, or probably Elena, but wants to protect Jeremy because, he's being stupid. But as we know in the episode 22, Founders Day, at the start, when Anna did give it to him, he was like, I don't really want to be a vampire anymore, because he wanted to be a vampire so he could find Vicky. But now that he knows Vicky is dead, he doesn't really want to become a vampire. But then when Anna dies, because she was a vampire, they decided to, he was like, you know what, she's dead, I'm going to do this as my relief recovery kind of thing. So yeah. And Caroline's in the hospital because in season 1, episode 22, Founders Day, Tyler reacted to the noise from the Jonathan Gilbert device, which was strange because he's not a vampire. And then they got into a car accident and Caroline pretty much just kind of went downhill. So, yeah. Anyway. At the hospital, Matt tells Bonnie about the noises Tyler heard when he was driving and that Caroline isn't doing well. In this part, I really want to talk about it. It's quite, you can see on Bonnie's face that she's like, because she's like, oh no, what have I done? Because she was the reason that device actually worked, because she told Elena that she disabled it, but she didn't. So she's kind of like, I could have protected Caroline, I could have saved her and all this sort of stuff. So I think it's a bit of a moment of hang on a minute, I just injured Elena. Not Elena. I just injured Caroline, my best friend. So yeah, anyway. Sheriff Forbes tells Damon that Mayor Lockwood is dead and they think he was a vampire because he dropped when John's device went off, but she doesn't believe it. In the hallway, before we talk about this, I know what they are, but I'm not going to tell you guys because we find out the next few episodes, I'm pretty sure. But I think what they need to remember is that he dropped to the ringing noise, but not to the vervain. That didn't affect him. So, if he drops to the ringing noise, but not the vervain, what does that mean? I do not know. In the hallway, Damon suggests to Elena and Bonnie that he give Caroline some blood, just to heal her. Elena is against it, but Bonnie tells him to do it. So, yeah, that's interesting. I'm surprised though that Bonnie would want him to do it because we've known that Bonnie doesn't like Damon at all. So it's interesting why she would actually want him to do it. So yeah. Okay. After Bonnie leaves, Damon tells Elena that they should talk about what happened at the house, but she has no idea what he's talking about. Now, when she doesn't know that, and he starts to realize, but then Jenna joins them and Elena asks where she was. Jenna reminds Elena that she told her earlier that she was going to the fire department. This is news to Elena, and they argue about whether Jenna told her this. So, while this is happening, he's like, wait a minute. Katherine. It was Katherine. So yeah, Damon figures out that Katherine is back. So, yeah, let's continue. I honestly love Katherine. I mean, I know that she does bad things, obviously, but I think she's such a good character in the show. Like, she's just such a good character. I mean, I definitely think that what she's done to everyone in this show and what she is going to do is very, very bad. Like, there's a lot of things that are very bad, but I think she's a really good character to the show. So, yeah. Katherine enters the Gilbert house through the door and, pretending to be Elena, hugs Stefan, but then he realizes something is off and he's not hugging Elena. He throws her across the room after she tries to kiss him. They fight in the living room until hearing someone at the door. Katherine throws Stefan down and leaves. So, as we can see, Stefan realizes now. So, yeah. Damon and Elena arrive and the three of them catch each other up with what they know. Damon pointed out that Katherine left Elena alive, so that's not what she's after. Stefan asks Damon what Katherine meant when she said she fooled one of the brothers. He tells him about the kiss. Stefan is ready to fight Damon, but Elena reminds them they have more important things to worry about. Damon suggests to ignore Katherine to draw her out. So that's interesting, In this episode, which I will talk about later, we see a different side of Damon towards Katherine, which I'll explain at the end. But yeah. Next, at the hospital in the morning, Bonnie checks on Caroline, who appears to be making a fast recovery. I am so glad. I mean, I don't particularly like Caroline at the moment. Like, I think she's an amazing character. And later on in the next few seasons, I think she becomes a great character. I do think she's a little bit of a brat at the moment, but she is getting better. But still, she's a good character. And I'm so glad that she's okay. So, woohoo! Which is, we all know it's because of Damon's blood. But it's just exciting, It's good that she's better. So, yeah. Liz talks to the mayor's wife, Carol, and asks why the mayor was affected by the Gilbert device. Damon cools down the heated conversation at the mayor's wake. Tyler welcomes back his father's youngest brother, Mason Lockwood, who'd been estranged from his brother for several years. So, they obviously have a wake, which is usually what you would do after a funeral, but for this, it's before the funeral. So they have this now, and then the funeral's in a few weeks or a few episodes, I don't know. And everyone just sort of gathers around and pays their respects to the family. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't the biggest fan of Maya Lockwood just because, the way that he treated Tyler. I didn't like him, but he was a good person in other aspects of the character. So I think, it's sad that he died, but yeah, he's kind of a character, I guess, that probably it's good that he didn't, he's probably a character for me. I feel personally, he's probably a character that it's good that he died now, because it's there wasn't anything to discover about him. And there is stuff to discover about the Lockwoods family, which we do find out what I mean by that in this episode. But I'm glad that he's not a part of it. I'm glad that, and I feel like he's a good character, but he didn't really need to be continued, I guess. So, yeah. So, yeah. And then Mason Lockwood, who is the black sheep of the family, as Tyler calls him, and he is Maya Lockwood's younger brother, comes to, the wake. So yeah, and we don't know anything about him yet. So I'm hoping that we get to kind of find out a few things about him soon. So it'll be interesting. Elena and Stefan go to talk to John at the hospital. Elena places the ring in John's hand and asks him why Katherine is here. I do not like John. I think he is just really ugh. He can't stand the sight of Stefan with Elena and he tells them to leave. I think that's just so rude. Like, for one, he is Elena's dad, but he hasn't had anything to do with Elena, or Elena didn't know this until way after she's 16 now. So, is she 16? Yeah, she is, I think. So, she has, for 16 years, he could have told her, but he never did. So, one, I think that is, if you want to have a relationship with her, you should have done it ages ago. But I also think that he doesn't really have a right to say, you shouldn't be with Stefan. You should stake him in the heart, because you haven't been a part of her life. So you're kind of not even a part of her. I get it. You're related to her and you're her father, but you haven't done anything to do that. It's what? Exactly. Anyway, Elena then walks out because she is just annoyed with it. And Stefan pauses before he aggressively pins John down by the neck, bites himself in the arm, and force feeds John his blood. Stefan threatens John that if he doesn't leave town within 24 hours, he'll turn him into a vampire and watch him hate himself. Thoughts on this scene, I honestly didn't mind it. I thought it was a pretty good scene. I think Stefan probably could have handled it better. He was doing a bit of a Damon move. Let's call it that. We're going to call it a Damon move because I feel like that is something that Damon would do more than Stefan, So he was doing a bit of a Damon move there. But I get it because, he loves Elena and he wants to protect Elena. So I get it. But it was a bit of a Damon move. We're going to say that now. If someone does a Damon move, I'm going to say that. That sounds cool. Okay. Let's continue. At the mayor wake, Liz informs Damon that Mason wants nothing to do with the council, and he isn't a believer like John. Thank the Lord. I really don't want him to be a part of the council and all that, because I just think he's just weird. Anyway. Katherine stops by the wake after Tyler invites her in. So, we obviously know that Katherine looks like Elena. Well, obviously she looks identical. They're double gangers and it's the same actor. So Tyler gets fooled by it and she's like, hi Elena, he's like, hi Elena, thanks for coming. Come on in. So, yeah. And I think Katherine was surprised that he let her in. So, anyway. Outside the hospital, Stefan admits that he threatened John and told him to leave town. Elena approves. I think that's nice. They have a really nice, hug and they just kind of sink into each other. And you can tell that Elena doesn't want anything to do with John because, John's tried to kill her boyfriend. He's done a lot of shit, so nobody really likes him. So yeah. At the wake, Bonnie tells Damon that Tyler was affected by the Gilbert device. He thinks she's feeling guilty that Caroline was hurt when it went off. She promises that if Damon makes one wrong move, she's going to take him out and demonstrates her power by painfully bursting the blood vessels in his brain with magic. I think I love Bonnie, but I honestly think that she's scared because she doesn't she doesn't really, I guess, understand everything. Like, she knows that they're vampires, but she doesn't understand what that means. And also, her grand's died, so now she's discovering on how to be a witch by herself. So I think, she's probably a little bit scared of like everything. She's probably scared of what she could do to people because she's hurt Caroline. She's scared of Damon and Stefan, because more Damon than anything, because they're vampires, and she doesn't understand everything that's going on. So I think, that's kind of how she is. She's showing that she is trying to be strong by using her magic. But you can kind of see that she's a little bit scared. So yeah. Anyway, Bonnie meets Katherine on the front porch, and she's thinking it's Elena. She complains about Damon. When Bonnie touches Katherine's arm, she immediately knows something isn't right. I think, that's good. Everyone gets fooled that think it's Elena, but as we know, Bonnie can kind of not necessarily see things, but she senses things when she touches, like when she touched Stefan's arm in the earlier seasons. She was seeing those numbers when Tanner died. She kind of senses things a lot, which gets explored later. And if you do remember, in one of the first episodes, she says that her gram says she's psychic. So it's a little bit like that. Yeah. Anyway, she's making an excuse to get away. She moves into another room and calls Elena, who tells her she's not at the Lockwoods yet. When Bonnie turns around, Katherine is behind her. Katherine tells her she's putting all the pieces of Elena's life together. Bonnie tries a headache trick, but Katherine brushes it off and grabs Bonnie by the throat. Bonnie uses her power to fling open the door so people can see them, and Katherine finally backs down when Stefan appears. She enjoys people thinking she's Elena and he asks her what I want, but she's coy. I think it's really cool to see. It's not Elena, but it's really cool to see Katherine with the vampire eyes, because, it's like seeing Elena with it. So it's kind of cool to see that, because I don't think that we've actually seen it, but it's cool to kind of see the vampire eyes and the vampire teeth on, this person, on Katherine, on Elena's doppelganger. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, Jeremy, Jenna, and Elena arrive at the wake. Elena goes to talk to Damon. He thinks she's worried that Katherine will send him off the deep end, but he pretends to be fine. She's not surprised he would kiss her. She's surprised that he would think she'd kiss him back. And after she says, blah, 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 he goes, that hurt. Like, he's actually heard about it. I think it's, obviously, we can tell that Damon probably loves Elena, I don't know, but, cares for Elena very much, and probably is love with Elena because she looks like Katherine, and he was so invested in Katherine. But we can also see that Elena has a place in her heart for Damon, and that she will care for him, and she is there for him, and she doesn't trust him, but Damon trusts her. So, which I think is a good thing, because, Stefan, I guess, especially at the start, had kind of been like, I don't want you, brother, I give up on you, you're not good, blah, 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 blah. But then, throughout last season, we see that brother bond kind of grow again. But it's good that Elena is also there for Damon. So, yeah. Jeremy finds Tyler sitting alone drinking from a flask. Tyler reveals to Jeremy that he thought his dad was a jerk and just really, ugh. Jeremy agrees. Tyler hands Jeremy the flask right when Mason walks in. Mason takes the flask and asks Jeremy to leave. Mason takes a drink from the flask before giving it back to Tyler. Before we talk about that, I really want to talk about Tyler and Jeremy. I think, as we know, they don't really like each other that much. But I think it's good that Jeremy's there because Jeremy gets this because he's experienced it. So I think it's good that he's kind of there for Tyler. And then Mason, oh my God, Mason drinking with Tyler, I just think it's so funny. It's so not predictable, but like such a normal thing in those kind of TV shows. Nowadays, not really, but back in the 2000s and stuff, and the early 2010s, that was a very common thing. There was always somebody, like an adult, that would drink with kids. It was so funny. So I think that was quite funny. Anyway, Katherine and Stefan takes a stroll outside. He tells Katherine that he was never in love with her because she compelled him. Now, in this moment, I don't actually, there is, Stefan has thought that, but I don't actually think that's true all the way. I do believe that, look, it does get revealed later on, but I'm not going to say that. But from what you can see in, the show, in the last flashbacks and stuff, you can see that, yes, Katherine did compel Stefan, but it wasn't the feelings. It was to drink Katherine's blood. Because as we know, Katherine fed on them and they fed on Katherine, and that's how they became vampires. And that is what Katherine compelled him for. It wasn't the feelings, but Stefan hasn't realised that yet. So, yeah. Anyway, she compelled him. But Damon's been obsessed with her for 145 years, which we already know. He asks her to get on with whatever she's up to. Katherine confesses that she came back for him, to which he responds that he hates her. Katherine retails by pulling a nearby waist-high candle holder out of the ground and stabs him through the guts. She tells him that sounds like the beginning of a love story, not the end. I think that's an interesting part. I feel like so many people thought that Katherine was back for a bunch of different reasons, but at first she was back for Stefan because she really liked Stefan, but then that kind of changed it. Anyway, later Elena tends to Stefan as he heals. Damon shows up and teases Stefan about his crazy ex issues. When Elena leaves, Damon tries to goad Stefan into fighting by mentioning the kiss again, but Stefan says Katherine is going to pit them against each other and he won't fall for it. He thinks the fact Damon feels something for Elena is a good thing because it shows that he cares. I think that's really sweet. And I think it's good that, Stefan's not taking the bait. So, yeah. Anyway, we're almost done. Back home, John packs up his belongings. He says goodbye to Jeremy, who doesn't understand where John's hate comes from. Jeremy asks him why the ring didn't protect his dad, and John reminds him it was an accident, not a supernatural death. So this, ring, which Alaric has one, which he got from Isabel, and John has one, which it's like the John Gilbert ring. And at first, we thought that's a daylight ring, but it's not. It's actually a protection ring. So basically, if the person wearing the ring is killed by a supernatural, so vampire, witch, all that sort of supernatural stuff, it protects them. But if it's not supernatural cause for the death, it doesn't do anything. So, yeah. Anyway, Tyler looks at a picture of his family and smashes it. Mason tackles him after Tyler brushes his mum aside, telling him to calm down. I feel like that is, you can see that Tyler's upset, but then he just sort of turns to anger. And that happens a lot with him. So we see that in a while. Anyway. Damon comes home to find Katherine there. She tells him she's leaving and asks what she's up to. She taunts him, telling him to kiss her or kill him. She tackles him to the ground and crawls on top of him. Sorry, my mic just cut out. Anyway, he throws her off, but then starts kissing her. Blah, 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 blah. As she starts pulling Damon's clothes off, he tells her to stop. He has a question, and if she answers it right, he promises to forget the last 145 years. She already knows what the question and the answer is. So if you didn't know what the question is, like, did you ever really love me? Or who is it like, between the brothers? She tells him that she never loved him, that it's always Stefan. And she leaves. And that hurt. Because, Damon has been fighting for her for so long. And, now he's being told that it was always Stefan. Like, that's pretty sad. So, yeah, anyway. Elena finds Damon waiting in her bedroom. He's sulking and drunk, of course. He brings up what she said earlier about being surprised that he would think she would kiss him back. He tells her she's lying to him and Stefan and herself. He kisses her, but she pushes her away. He persists and she pushes him away again. Finally, she tells him that she cares about him, but she loves Stefan and that it'll always be Stefan. I think that's so sad that two people that he has loved, like he loved Katherine, like he died for Katherine. He became a vampire, but he died for Katherine. And he cared about Elena, and he maybe didn't love her, but he had something there for her. And he's been told that it was always going to be Stefan, the brother that, he's probably been jealous of at some stages of their life together. So I think it's just like, that is so sad for him. And as we know, he doesn't always deal with stuff well. He sees Jeremy in the doorway and asks, this is how he dealt with it. He sees Jeremy in the doorway and asks him if he still wants to be a vampire. Before Jeremy can answer, he snaps his neck and leaves without another word. So I think that is, look, we don't know if he saw the Gilbert ring. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I feel like he probably did at some point, maybe. I don't know. But I think it's the way that he reacts to stuff, and it's hard, and I don't think that he should have done that, but it's his kind of way. Anyway, Elena clutches Jeremy in horror, sobbing hysterically until she looks down and sees he's wearing the Gilbert ring. At the Lockwood house, Mason talks to Tyler about learning to control himself. So that's what, Mason, says, it's the Lockwood curse to, have very aggressive anger and that sort of stuff that you can't really control, but he learnt to control it. So, yeah. Elena cradles Jeremy as Stefan tries to convince her that the only reason Damon went after Jeremy was because he saw the ring, but Elena insists that she hates Damon. Back at the boarding house, Damon is left alone with his rage. So you can tell that he's sad, and he regrets what he did. And he knows that he did something wrong, but now he doesn't know what to do. In the hospital, Caroline, now healed, wakes up to see Katherine standing over her bed, and she mistakes her for Elena. Katherine wants her to give the Salvatore brothers a message for her. The message was, game on. She takes a pillow and holds it over Caroline's head, suffocating her until she stops struggling. With Caroline dead, Katherine leaves the hospital. So that is interesting. Caroline is dead. But maybe she isn't, maybe she is. I don't know. We'll find out. So some trivia. A little bit of facts. During the wake at Lockwood Mansion, both Damon and Katherine pick and eat fruit from the buffet table. The fact neither of them need to eat human food, but do so anyway, indicates the same hedonism that L.J. Smith gave Damon in the Dark Reunion. So L.J. Smith wrote books that this show is based off of. I've read them and they're actually really good, so I recommend reading them. But in, because we know that they don't need to eat human food, but they're doing it to kind of seem normal, I guess. So a body count, Jeremy Gilbert, broken neck, killed by Damon Salvatore, but resurrected by his Gilbert ring. Caroline Forbes, suffocated and killed by Katherine Pierce. But if we remember, Damon gave Caroline blood. So maybe something will happen there. Maybe it won't. We'll find out. Locations that were used: Mystic Falls, Salvatore Boarding House, Mystic Falls Hospital, Gilbert House, and Lockwood Mansion. Some behind-the-scenes facts. This episode had about 3.35 million viewers in the USA. This first season premiere not to feature Alaric since joining the show midway through season 1. Episode name was known on July 12th, 2010, thanks to Ian Somerhalder's Twitter picture. Julia Plex said Stefan and Damon will know within the first 15 minutes of the episode about Katherine. Damon realised he was duped and Stefan came face to face with Elena. The fun of it, how Stefan responds to the moment as opposed to how Damon responds in the moment. We also see that Elena's house is number 2104 Maple Street. We figure out what her street is. So that's interesting. Also, another fact about it is this episode was released on the 9th of September, which is actually Adam Sandler's birthday. So if you should know Adam Sandler. He's a pretty famous actor. So yeah, that's also his birthday. The music that we hear this week is Out of Our Hands by Gemma Haynes, How to Save a Life by Piano Tribute Players, Break Even, Falling to Pieces, Piano Tribute Players, Wonderful Life by Hertz, The River Has Run Wild by Mad Langer, and Come Home by One Republic featuring Sarah Billis. So that's a little bit of the facts about this week's episode. So now I'm just going to read the things that I liked and then we'll be done. So Katherine's back. Woohoo. Fun, exciting. Jeremy wakes up and he's not a vampire. I like that. Anna is dead, which I think is sad. Stefan tries to help Jeremy. Bonnie realizes it's her fault that Caroline got hurt. Damon is there for Liz. I think that's really nice. Like, I just love that relationship that they have. It's not a, it's like a friend relationship where they're just friends and, he's there for her. Caroline is not okay. at the start of the episode, when they visit the hospital, we see that Caroline's not doing well, which is quite sad. Damon offers to give blood, and Bonnie said yes, because she knows that if she doesn't heal, it'll be Bonnie's fault. Elena doesn't remember the kiss between Damon and Elena, but it wasn't Elena, it was Katherine, and Damon realizes. Damon wants to kill Katherine. So what I wanted to talk about there was that, if we remember, when we first found out that, sorry, I was just reading something, that, Katherine's back, about Katherine, Damon wanted to be with her, he loved her, all this, but now it's so different, he wants to kill her, so that's interesting. Caroline heals. So excited for her after the blood, but I'm happy that. Mason Lockwood comes home. Katherine shows up to Mayor Lockwood's wake. Bonnie and Damon. I was talking about this before where, Bonnie is scared, but she wants to show that she's not, so she tries and uses her power. Bonnie talks to Elena, but Katherine, and she senses something, and then she realizes, that's not Elena, that's Katherine. Jeremy and Tyler share a drink and a little bit of a heart-to-heart, so I think that's nice. Katherine came back for Stefan. John Gilbert gives... Stefan isn't going to fight Damon. I think that's, he's not taking the bait. John Gilbert gives Jeremy his ring. That's nice. Tyler is sad and he lashes out, being aggressive. It's always Stefan for Katherine. It will always be Stefan. Damon is hurt. Damon and Elena kiss. And Katherine and Elena chose Stefan, which I think is sad. Damon killed Jeremy, but he wakes up, so that's good. We hear about the curse of the Lockwoods, so that's, that what we got to kind of deal with. Elena is done with Damon. He's like, nah. She's like, nah, I don't want to do it with him anymore. And Caroline is sort of dead, I guess. So, yeah. That was this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, or watching if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe to Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram, because we post a lot of content on all of those. And also comment on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, or email me at thetruthbehindmysticfalls@gmail.com and say what you think, why Tyler and Mayor Lockwood reacted to the ringing. Why? That's what I want to know. Why? And in a few weeks, when we find out why, I will read out some answers. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Next week's episode is Brave New World, episode 2 of season 2. Hopefully, I'll have a guest next week. Maybe not. Just got to work out scheduling. But I'll see you guys next week. Bye.